El Senor Dieter, rapid fire. What's your go-to meal when you don't want to think about food at all?
Oatmeal.
If you had to eat the same breakfast every day for a year, what would it be?
A smoothie.
Are you more of a routine everyday person or a mix it up constantly person? I already know the answer to this.
Routine. As much as possible.
What's something you're surprisingly picky about that most people wouldn't guess?
The only thing I'm really picky about is my coffee. Anything else, I don't care.
What habit or ritual?
And my ice cream, but
what habit or ritual helps you reset when your day starts going sideways? I like that question.
I don't really let things get to me. Like, I don't need a hard reset. If it's a bad day, like, just do the next thing.
Accept it. What's a skill you've picked up as an adult that you genuinely didn't expect to enjoy?
I have no idea.
See, this is the rapid fire questions aren't always supposed to be soft.
Because all the skills that I've picked up, I like don't enjoy doing, but I just have to do them.
Okay. What's a piece of advice you ignored at first, but later realized was actually spot on?
Pay yourself first.
What's something small that reliably makes your day better?
My wife, she's 5'3". She's small. She makes me
And lastly, if you could instantly outsource one annoying task from your daily life forever, what would it be?
Cooking.
Really?
If I never had to make food ever again,
you just wouldn't.
Yeah. Great. Also, can we like even these screens out? There like we that? Go. I was so small. It's like half my face.
We got a good one for you guys today. I think this one's gonna be.
The irony of this is we had to change this very last minute because we were supposed to have a guest who was sick. But I am eating a like fully processed breakfast this morning. I am having a bagel with peanut butter and a protein shake because I got back from pickup basketball at 7:15, showered, and I'm here right now.
Yeah, that's not the most processed thing I've ever heard. But I mean, and we should make the distinction too, right? To a degree, almost every food is processed, right? But we're talking about like ultra processed, like the ones that are just like actually like synthetic. But we'll dive into all that stuff. But I mean, to a degree, a lot of things are processed, right?
Depending on how you use the definition.
That's what I mean, right? So if we really want to split hairs, like there is a difference there. But yeah, so we were gonna have a coach on. We will have him on in the future. Get better. Coach, you know who you are. I'll keep it a surprise as to who it was going to be, but yeah, feel better. So we're going to pivot to this, and I think what we'll dive into. Let me first give you guys an idea of what I think we can cover, and what we'll be able to cover is we'll go over why ultra processed foods are everywhere, why they're in nutrition conversations. We'll try to separate headlines versus the reality. So we'll dive into people's fear about them, confusion, kind of dive into that whole black and white thinking, and then what you guys will walk away with today is hopefully some clarity and some nuance and practical application. So let's just start there then, Brad. What do we were talking about the definition of processed foods, but when we say ultra processed foods, let's just start using that term from now on. UPFs. When we talk about UPFs, what are those?
I mean, I think what we need to do is just talk about how we use that term colloquially, right? There's a spectrum of you grow food in your backyard and you just pull it off the tree or stem or whatever and eat it like raw.
Yeah.
Right, like an apple. That's like as unprocessed as it gets, right? Then you have on the other end of the spectrum is a Twinkie, right? In which like every stage of that food is gone through multiple steps of processing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a spectrum. For most of our foods, they go through at least some form of processing, right? If you eat a steak, it has been cooked. Like that's a form of processing. And so I think it's really what we're talking about is food on the far end of the spectrum.
Yeah. Yep. Agreed. So, those foods, like what, I don't know about like what for you, what comes to mind when you think about ultra processed foods? To me, I think of like Doritos, for example. I do like Doritos, but like I think of Doritos, like I think of just stuff that you'd find in a package that was put together by humans.
Yeah, actually, I mean, I think the way I think about it is it's weird because I don't really think about foods like in terms of their process level. I really think about them like more holistically than that, but it's things that have gone through multiple steps to make them last longer on the shelf and taste better. I mean, that's like the very end version of that spectrum. And both of those things factor in.
I want to dive into something I think is really important. I've always found really interesting, and I've always really enjoyed the way you've explained it. We've been through what I want to talk about. We've been through this before, but I want you to walk the audience through kind of how we got here, because we didn't used to have these foods. I mean, even 100 years ago, the foods that we have now just they weren't, yeah, they didn't exist, right? So you can look at human evolution, you can look at the industrial revolution as sort of that turning point where things started to become manufactured, things became more easily available, more readily available, calories weren't so scarce anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And we've now gotten to a point where energy is abundant and largely in the form of these processed foods. So maybe take us through the way you've explained that before, kind of how we got here, why ultra processed foods are so prevalent now, just how humanity has progressed to this point.
I mean, it's a very long story, but the short version of it is we used to live in small communities with large spaces of land in which you could grow and produce most of your own food, right? You could raise a couple cows and chickens and harvest your own wheat and plant your own vegetables and fruit trees and things like that. But then as you had more population density, like people moved into cities, you had to find ways to feed more people. And you had to find ways to make food last longer because you'd have to ship it in from elsewhere and leave it in like large quantities so people could go get it whenever they needed to, or find ways to make food on demand. And so that was basically a large part of the Industrial Revolution, right? What I think people don't realize is, in addition to the ability to have machines make things, that industrialization also led us to being able to feed larger groups of people that lived in cities, right? If you think like if a farm is 100 miles away, okay, well, how do I get enough people in here? And so slowly over 150 years, we built this system of being able to make food from the raw ingredients that the end product is more stable, it's more calorie dense, and it's effectively cheaper because of economies of scale. And that's what has allowed us to have big cities, right? And then all the other great things that come with those, right? Financial markets, art, big businesses, you know, development, invention, engineering, all those things that came at that. So it's really a result of the trajectory of the human species. And there's some great things with that, right? Mm-hmm. We have more people dying of overnutrition than undernutrition for all intents and purposes. Mm-hmm. But obviously then there's the downside of it took us a while to realize how potentially problematic these processed foods were. And I think what we really should do is talk through what makes them problematic versus what is like the boogeyman of this conversation, right? I think a lot of times people, like intuitively we know having Doritos every day is not great for you. But what is it that really makes it bad? Is it the MSG? Oh my God. Or is it like some other piece that we need to understand? In fact, if you're on our email list, we just sent out an email today about that.
Well, wouldn't it be, let's answer that question and then let's dive into everything else. My philosophy, I think our philosophy at Macros Inc. in general has been, we don't demonize foods. Like the reason we've never said, no, you shouldn't eat that. We've never said Doritos are bad for you. What we have said is it would be probably a bad idea to eat nothing but Doritos all day, every day. Right now, that's obviously an extreme example. But the point being, it becomes bad if that becomes your dominant food source, right? Because now what's happening is Now you're lacking all the other nutrients that you need. You're lacking protein, you're lacking the fats that your body needs. You're not getting proper nutrition if all you're eating is Doritos. Again, that's an extreme example. No, hopefully nobody out there eats nothing but Doritos all day, every day. But is it fair to say that the real demon, the real boogeyman, as you said, is really more habitual than it is about the product itself?
I think it's lack of knowledge. I think the real boogeyman is like a lack of really understanding what's going on. And that's not because of like people's fault per se, but they've just never been told the actual truth of what's going on. And so I think people understanding what the actual issue with processed foods or issues are is the first step, right? It's if I have a client who, let's say their goal is to lose weight and reach peak levels of health, the conversation about like, okay, where do processed foods actually fit into this journey? Like they need to have a good understanding of that other than, hey, I have to avoid these at all costs, right? Because you can't operate in the world today avoiding them every single day of your life. I mean, you may be able to, but then like your quality of life just becomes insane, right? Because you're just so focused on, oh my God, I have to avoid these. And in reality, it's you have to understand what is the actual issue and then how do I navigate it?
Yeah.
And so I think teaching people about that is the important part. And so I think we should spend some time really kind of dissecting, okay, what is it that we know about processed foods causes issues? Mm-hmm. What are the things to really be focused on? And where can you kind of be like, okay, it's not that big of a deal if I have, you know, a bag of Doritos on a plane. Like just where do these things fit in?
So let's start there. What is it that we know about processed foods actually causes issues?
So, and kind of the hierarchy of what is the main things that drive processed foods to having bad health outcomes. The first is people consume far more calories when their diet contains a large proportion of processed foods. There's been studies that have compared ultra-processed diets to not processed diets, and they consume anywhere from 400 to 800 calories more a day. The kind of average number is about 500, but it depends a little bit. But 500 calories more a day. That's 300. That's 3,500 calories a week more. Like that's a large difference, right? So that's like, okay, you could easily gain a lot of weight in the span of a year if you're following a really ultra processed diet. The reason that happens is due to the composition of the diet itself, not the specific ingredients. So here's kind of the like the makeup of an ultra processed diet. They generally tend to be very calorie dense, right? They generally tend to be very high in palatability, right? So they taste really good. They are very low in satiety. So they generally have lower water content, lower fiber content, lower protein content. And they're generally like easier to make and require less effort to consume. Mm-hmm. And so when you take all of those things, it's like, oh, yes, I'm going to enjoy eating them more. I'm going to not feel as full after I eat like a bite. And it's way easier for me to do this than if I have to prepare a non-processed meal myself. And so those are the major things. So you end up having higher calorie intake. You end up gaining body weight. And then all of the other health issues that come from that, right? You start to experience insulin resistance. Your blood pressure goes up. Inflammation goes up because as you increase adiposity and insulin resistance, inflammation goes up. Appetite regulation starts to fall apart. You start moving less. Like all of those things happen as a result of that over a period of time. And so those are the major things that happen. And then you can kind of start thinking about, okay, what are the individual ingredients in these foods? And what do those actually contribute to your overall health, right? In the context of the calorie surplus and rising BMI, rising blood pressure, rising blood glucose, all of those things, then you factor in that these diets generally have higher sodium content, lower potassium content. So it's going to exacerbate blood pressure issues, right? These tend to be higher on the glycemic index. They tend to be higher in processed carbohydrates and processed added oils, right? So you get, a larger glucose exposure in the context of already established insulin resistance, which is much different than, in the context of a calorie surplus and insulin resistance, it's much different, right? Than if you're losing weight and you have a piece of white bread. Like those are very different situations. And then you consume different types of fatty acids in a processed food diet that may contribute to higher rates of inflammation in the context of all of those other things that are already there, right? And so that's where those individual ingredients start to potentially cause issues. It's the context of it and everything else that's going on.
So I have a question for you about, well, it's related to diabetes. There's this idea out there that ultra processed foods are a reason that people become diabetic in and of themselves. Is there any truth to that?
Directly, like primarily, no. So it's the result of rising body adiposity from a chronic calorie surplus that drives 90+% of the type 2 diabetes cases that result from a highly processed diet. Generally speaking, though, and this is the other piece that we have to talk about, and this is we talk about this in the email that went out today. The other issue is behavior habits cluster. So generally speaking, people who adopt and follow a highly processed food diet are also not as physically active, right? Maybe so we know lack of physical activity is going to increase your risk of type 2 diabetes as well. You throw lack of physical activity with a calorie surplus and a very poor diet quality, like you're asking for having metabolic issues. And so it's all of those things together that are the problem, right? It's not like, let's say you eat a generally well-rounded diet, you're in calorie balance or you're in a slight deficit because you're trying to lose weight, and you have a sleeve of a 4-pack of Oreos once a week. Like, in the context of everything else, that's not doing anything meaningful to your health. Right. Other than maybe if you don't brush your teeth afterwards and you end up with some cavities because those Oreos get stuck in there.
Do you know how many calories are in the average Oreo? Have you looked?
No, isn't it like 70 calories per Oreo or something?
Yeah, it's like 70, and they're tiny. I'm like, what the hell? What is this thing made of? Yeah, it's crazy. Anyways.
Yeah.
So, sorry, were you? Is there anything else you want to add to that?
I think that's a good place for me to stop talking and let somebody else talk.
So here's what I'm interested in. It kind of goes back to so if you look at where we're at now and our food, the state of where our food is, like the food industry. How much do the economics of everything play into all of this? Like, in other words, companies obviously want to economize. What do I mean by that? Is they want to produce food and ship it to you in the most economical way possible, right? And you as a consumer want to save money, so you also want to buy the most cost-effective thing. Well, we know that a lot of the time these processed foods that we're talking about are relatively cheap compared to a lot of other things. So,
sort of.
Yeah, I know I know that's not always true, but when you look at the economics of it, and just I kind of wonder if the interest of these major food companies is at odds with the interest of optimal human health, right? In terms of how humans should actually live, is that at odds with the food that is pushed onto us and encouraged, right? Are they at odds with one another?
I think that is a disingenuous way to ask the question. And I'm not saying it's your fault. I'm just saying
Not
what
the
you
right
have
way
to.
to picture it or frame it.
Well, it's the issue is that's the way that everybody frames it.
Sure.
But what we're doing is we're basically discounting normal human behavior.
Okay.
Right? Cheap food has made modern humanity possible. Right?
And mass production.
Yes. It also caters to, I mean, this is the free market, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When we say, hey, big food is the issue that people are so sick, we also have to take the other side of the coin and be like, we vote with our dollars, right? Perfect example. Let's say we told the government, hey, you have to fix this problem and big food can no longer make what they're going to make. There's going to be speakeasies for Oreos instead of the booze there was during the Prohibition, right? Like,
can you imagine?
Humans are always going to chase the things that they want that make them feel good because that's what we're wired to do, right? We are wired for short-term benefit.
Yeah.
And so I think what we really have to do is the other side of this is say, okay, the modern food industry is the result of a free market. Obviously, like there's subsidies and there's like, backroom dealings between the government and people who own these big things, and you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. Like, I'm aware of all the corruption, like that just exists. But the other side of this is you get to vote with the dollars that you spend, right? So when you go to the store, you can buy carrots or you can buy Cheetos. They're both small orange things that you put in your mouth, right? A pound of carrots is cheaper than a pound of Doritos. Like, it's so at some point it comes down to just the individual level decisions. Now, there are situations, I mean, one of the most eye-opening experiences I ever had was when I was in Indiana for a intravital microscopy workshop, which was like you can look at things under a microscope with animals while they're alive, like to a certain depth of their skin. It was really cool. That's not the point. But I was there in Indiana and I was there for a week. So I went to a grocery store to like get food for my hotel because I was like, I'm not going to eat out every night. Like, I'm broke, I'm young, I don't have any money. So I went to I took a taxi. This was back before Uber, basically. I literally took a taxi to the grocery store. And this was in like central Indiana, right outside Indianapolis. There was like the produce section was like one small cooler. So like there's definitely places in the world where these like food deserts exist and it's really hard to get access to like cheap, fresh food. But my point is the free market is always going to make these options available. And at some point it comes down to like, okay, you got to make decisions about what we have around food.
So and we kind of talked about that too in some of our recent episodes. I think what you're saying is that may be true to a degree, but we also have to talk about our agency. And,
yes.
So ultimately it's still up to us, which I think is a good point. What, it's in terms of the processed foods themselves, is there a ratio that and maybe it's, maybe it is just as simple as saying, yeah, 80-20 is a good number to follow. But, if someone's like,
yeah, I think for everybody it's different. Right? I mean, some people have the ability to control portion sizes way more than others.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Right? Some people, if they have a Oreo, they're eating the whole thing of Oreos.
Yeah.
Some people can have one and just leave it. Some people at different phases of their journey can do different things, right? Some people early in their journey may not be able to do it. Some may later be able to do it. Some people earlier in their journey may be able to do it, and later in their journey may not be able to do it. So it's always like you just got to learn what's going on and how your body's responding and how you're responding, and like you've got to have a good like system for yourself, right? There may be periods where you don't eat any processed foods because you're like, man, I have a really hard time controlling portion sizes. There may be periods of your life where like, okay, well, I'm traveling, etc. I got to figure out how to do this. And so I think it's always really hard to give like an exact number, right? People will be like, oh, it's 80-20. I mean, I think if you have over the course of your life, if, let's call it, 20% of your calories a day come from processed dish foods, like discretionary calories, you're probably going to be okay.
Yeah.
Right. With the caveat of that's different for every person.
Did you ever watch the documentary that Morgan Spurlock did, the Super Size Me one?
Did you know he
did you ever
died?
see that? I did. Yeah, it was
a
couple of years ago, I think. But did you ever watch that documentary?
I did. But here's what's interesting, though. Other people have done the same thing where they've eaten, like, not only McDonald's, but they've had a Big Mac every day for like 3 months and they've lost weight.
Oh yeah, for sure. And that was going to lead to one of my points.
So it is the argument of how much of your diet do these things make up? And what is the approach you have to it?
Yeah.
Right? It's sort of like the alcohol conversation. I mean, 1 drink a week's probably not really going to do much to your overall health. Is it like optimal? No. Is it going to really be an issue? Probably not. Now, some people, they can't have a drink a week, right? Because of behavior things. Or maybe they have other health complications, like they have liver issues. They can't have a drink a week. Right. So everything's always context dependent.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think most people lose the forest for the trees when we talk about processed foods. They'll read a study and they'll be like recently, this whole ham thing being classified as a class 1 carcinogen by the World Health Organization. Right? It's like, okay, if you're eating a pretty well-rounded diet, you're exercising, you're maintaining a good body weight, and you have a ham sandwich once a week, like, that's probably not meaningfully moving the needle for your risk of colon cancer, right? I mean, the other issue is in those studies, those observational studies, the same thing is behavior factors cluster, right? Like I went and I looked it up. I'd have to go find the study again, but it was like the lowest versus the highest like nitrate intake group, and it was like the highest nitrate group was just also generally eating a way unhealthier diet. They had like no fruits and vegetables.
Right.
They didn't exercise. They smoked more. They drank more alcohol. So it's like this clustering of behaviors is such an important piece of the conversation.
Well, and that's not anything. The ham thing isn't anything new, right? They've been talking about this for like just deli meats
also,
in general.
Ham is the worst of deli meats. Let's all be honest.
Yeah, you're more of a bologna guy, right?
Dude, I'm trying to think of the last time I had bologna. It's probably been 30 years. Like I think I was like 8 years old the last time I had bologna.
For sure. You know, bologna is just hot dog pancakes, right?
Yeah.
There was also the Kansas State professor, remember, who went on like just the gas station diet for like 30 days, and he lost a bunch of weight and his BMI went down.
People have done the potato diet. People have done the ice cream diet. I mean, and like obviously the new GLP medications. It's like everything we've ever done has always shown us that calorie balance is a huge part of it. And I think what goes so understated in all of these discussions is processed foods become a staple in societies concurrently with the like demobilization of those people, right?
Yeah.
They begin living in cities, so they're not like walking around like out in the world as much. They're driving to work. They're doing service-based jobs where there's, knowledge service-based jobs where they're sitting in their office all day. They're not getting out in nature. They're not moving around.
Right, exactly.
Like they're basically, all of these things happen at once, right? And we can look at, one of my favorite things to do is just look at population health statistics as countries go through, like from developing to
progression. Sure.
Right? Like look at,
what does it show?
Look at Mexico, right? As Mexico went from like a very poor, mostly urban or rural country to, more of a developed industrial nation, their health went bang.
Yeah, right? I was going to say
obesity rates rose.
Exactly.
Diabetes rates rose. They have some interesting like genetic backgrounds back there that make them have higher rates of diabetes and kidney disease than the U.S. population. India, same thing.
Hmm.
China is starting to experience it, although that culture is a little bit different. Interestingly, Japan has kind of avoided. I mean, they have some of these things, but not nearly to the extent, and I think that's a big culture thing.
For sure.
But like, just go look at the timeline of like the 30-year span of going from developing to developed nation. A lot of great things happen in those countries, but like population level health just goes.
Do we have any? I'd be curious to understand if there's any data that shows obesity rates among people that live in major metropolitan areas versus like more rural areas. Is there a difference there?
Yes, there is, but that's also skewed and really hard to untangle because rural today is different than rural in the 70s and the 80s.
Well, you would think urban would be too, though.
Not as much.
Okay,
right? Like think about where are the major like very dense rural populations. They actually overlap with some of the highest rates of obesity, right? The Southeast, right? Where it's a lot of like rural Arkansas, rural Mississippi, rural Louisiana. And a lot of that has to do with built environment, food culture, work, socioeconomic status. Like there's a lot of things like that. Access to healthcare. Like there's a lot of just the rural urban divide has changed a lot over the last 30 years, and it's more of like a structural built environment thing than anything else. But also like rural living is much different, right? Now, most people who rural live aren't living what rural life was like in the 1930s and 40s, right? They're not subsistence farming. They're not like physically active out there doing a lot of things. It's a much different situation.
This brings me to two different questions I want to ask you, and this is probably more opinion related, but maybe you have some, data or context to back it. But my first question would be, do you think that our food industry, or whatever you want to call it, will ever go back to
no?
Like, you don't think so? You don't think we'll shift towards more whole foods? Do you think it'll only become more processed?
I actually think the processed piece is the least important part of the conversation.
What do you think is the main thing?
Look at food behavior in general over the last 30 years, and then even in the last 6 years. The amount of food that we prep and make at home, it used to be like we ate 90% of our meals at home and like 10% out.
I see what you're saying.
Now it's like 60 to 70% of meals are eaten out at restaurants or like Uber Eats / delivered in. Right? It's the convenience that is driving most of our decision making.
So what are you suggesting this means for our future of food?
It's going to continue that way, right? Pretty soon it's going to be AI robots building food and having it delivered to your house. Like that is the direction we're headed. Like look up remember the founder of Uber, Travis Kalanick?
Not familiar.
He now has these cloud kitchens, which is basically like these robots make bowls, burritos, and deliver them to people.
I didn't know that.
Right. Huh. So this is the direction. Now, hopefully that means we can control portion sizes better. We can have healthier food because it's economy of scale, like whatever. But we're going to continue to go to convenience, right?
Yeah.
The biggest lie we've ever been sold is as we get more efficient in work, we'll have more free time to do things. No, the more efficient we are at work, the more people expect you to perform, right? It's like, oh, you have all these tools, you should be able to 10 extra work. So we're just going to be working the same or more to produce more results. So we're going to have less time for, unless you're very intentional, like making your own food, doing your own grocery shopping.
So the need for convenience becomes even higher, is what you're saying, which I think seems very logical and likely when you paint it like that. So which leads me to my next question then, and you've kind of already answered it, but do you think that we will ever solve this obesity crisis? Or do you think it's only going to get worse? Or at the very least, not improve?
How long does something have to exist before it's no longer a crisis and more of a systemic, structural problem that we just go, oh, this is actually a feature of the world we live in, and we
Or
have to
it's just,
unwind it over time.
yeah, like it's just this is the normal now.
Right? It's sort of like everybody's talking about the U.S. debt crisis. I'm like, well, it's been building for decades. So is this really like a crisis, or is this just a problem everybody's been aware of and nobody ever wanted to do anything about it?
So what do you think this means for obesity?
It's going to be a structural part of society for decades until we have generations of people who change priorities and
pass
really,
that down
yeah.
Pass
I
down
mean, I
those
think
values
and we have to have some structural changes in the world, right? I mean, here's the reality. Everything's getting more expensive, which means people either have to level up their skills to get paid more or they have to work more hours to make more dollars so they can survive. That leaves less time for everything else. So we do have some structural things that have to get solved for the average person to be able to be like, okay, this is a priority, right? I think also it's going to be important for, this is maybe just a personal opinion. I think when you're young, you have to do a very good job of making decisions in your life to optimize the things that really matter. And I think that's really hard when you're in your 20s, right? It's very easy to get a good job, build a lifestyle that requires a huge amount of maintenance that pulls you away from doing the things that matter, right? So like here's a classic example. When you're in your 20s, you kind of have this window of your 20s of sort of no matter what you do, your body's going to maintain relative health. And mostly it's just because you haven't accumulated enough decades for all your bad habits to catch up to you. So during your 20s, you're like, okay, I'm going to work 60, 70 hours a week. I'm going to get that promotion. I'm going to buy that big house. I'm going to buy those nice cars. I'm going to get used to traveling to luxury vacations. And so now like my expenditure is 15 grand a month, right? Like that's just the lifestyle I've built. And then all of a sudden your 30s hit and you're like, oh man, I put on a few more pounds than I expected. I'm having some blood pressure, blood sugar issues. My cardiologist is a little concerned. And now I have to figure out, okay, like how do I change my habits to eat more at home, cook more, exercise, spend more time outdoors? And you're like, well, shoot, like I'm now a partner at the firm. I got to be making 300 grand a year, like pre-tax to just sustain my lifestyle. I can't tell my wife we got to sell the cars and downsize the house so I can spend more time at the gym. Like this is the reality, right?
Right.
And so I think a lot of us wake up one day and realize that we've built this life that kind of constrains our optionality to prioritize our health.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Right. And so I think that is a big part of, you've got to early in your life make those decisions, or at some point have the hard conversations of like, oh, well, yeah, I'll probably be able to live in this really nice house for the next 10 years, but by 50, I'm going to be on every medication under the sun and just like trying to battle my way to make it to 70, right?
Yeah.
So I think a lot of those things have to happen early in life to have those decisions and those conversations.
If you had to encapsulate kind of everything that you know about processed foods, the things that we've discussed, as maybe a takeaway for people, just about what they need to know about processed foods, what would you say?
I think the larger a portion of your diet they are, the harder it's going to be for you to optimize your health, for the reasons that, generally speaking, they're going to make you predisposed to gaining more weight because of the fact that they're calorie dense, very low satiety, usually very low nutrient value. They have high palatability, so you're very likely to overconsume them. That sets up the issues of, as your BMI goes up, your body adiposity goes up, and you have some of these metabolic issues, the specific ingredients in those food kind of exacerbate some of those issues.
Yeah.
And so you just need to be really cognizant about how much of your diet they are making up, right? I would not spend a huge amount of time super worried about making sure you never eat a processed food.
Yeah.
right? I don't worry about it that much. Right? I mean, we don't eat a lot of processed foods. Like, there's not a lot in our house. But, like, okay, we'll have chips and crackers every once in a while. And, like, we've got bagels in the house. We have protein bars, which are processed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like, where do they fit in the overall context of your diet? And making sure that you are spending the right amount of energy thinking about it and not focused on the wrong things.
For someone that's worried about this and they're like, you know what? Yeah, I want to clean up my diet. I want to eat fewer processed foods. I want to, I want to like undo the damage that I may have done. How much hope is there for that person?
I think there's a lot of hope. And I think the simplest place to start is just start with understanding the calories you're consuming in a day, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's much easier to just like take a few less bites of a meal than it is to completely change your food. Like, let's say, and what's interesting is I've seen so many food logs from clients. There's very few people, and this is a little bit of self-selection bias, but there's very few people who are like, I eat McDonald's at breakfast, I go to Taco Bell at lunch, and I eat Pizza Hut for dinner. Like, there's very few people who eat like that.
Yeah.
And so I think the first piece is like, let's just say you're having one meal a day that's like an ultra processed food diet. Like, start with just looking at that meal and seeing like, okay, how can I just cut some calories out of this by either smaller portion sizes, not finishing it all, ordering something different, buying something a little bit different. Like, start there before you're like, oh, I got to throw out everything in my house and like go grocery shopping and learn how to cook. Right. And then like now tell my family members that everybody has to be home at 5 o'clock at night and we're all eating. Like, the small pieces are going to have a lot more of an impact than like trying to overhaul everything at once.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a good point. I mean, and that's when people fail too, right? When they try to overhaul everything all at once, you're setting yourself up for.
Some people can do that, right? Some people have success with that, but I think it's more realistic of like, focus on what actually matters first.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's sort of like, let's say I was dealing with like a huge amount of credit card debt and I was trying to get myself out of it. Right. And I looked at it and I was like, okay, I got to figure out where to cut expenses. And let's say I'm in this giant house that cost me like $5,000 a month. And I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm just going to stop doing my twice a week at Starbucks. And I'm like, okay, you're saving $40 a month. When in reality, you probably don't need to be living in a house that's way too big for you and way too expensive for you. Like, sell that, downsize, take the equity, pay off your credit card, and live within your means. Right, like that's the better, and then you can still go to Starbucks every day. Like that's the thought process you have to have, right? Is it's focus on the things that actually move the needle. But the hard part is most people don't want to make the decisions that are like big movers because they're hard, right?
Is there anything that you look at in your life that you're like, man, like, do you feel like you got a good balance on that? Or are you like, you know what?
On the food thing or the like life in general thing?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, sure, life in general, but both, let's say.
I mean, the biggest thing that I need to figure out how to do right now with how just hectic and busy our life is I got to get back to actually preparing food, because my issue right now is like, I just don't eat.
Really? Just
like I haven't eaten a lunch in 6 months probably.
Well, I'm with you on that. The lunch is, I don't even, sometimes I'm like, it's 1 o'clock and like, I realize I haven't even eaten anything. So I'm with you on that, but I'm surprised to hear you say that about dinner. What do you think's been different for you about, just not eating in general?
I've prioritized everything else other than like making sure I'm
like actually
eating enough food.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, then maybe I'll hold you accountable right here. You're going to make dinner tonight. Okay.
I mean, I still do that. I cook dinner almost every night.
Oh, okay.
But it's like lunch that I just like don't.
Well, are you even hungry at lunch? There's a lot of times where sometimes I'm just never hungry during the day.
No, but it's also like I'm at an age where I got to start making sure I'm not losing body weight.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I don't want to go into my 40s like.
Sure. Like all scrawny.
Yeah.
Have you lost weight?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Huh.
Yeah.
What's your normal weight like that you've always been at, and what are you at now?
Like high 170s, like 175 to 180. My weight always fluctuates in there, but now I'm like 170.
So about you've wow, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's not nothing, obviously.
No.
Are you sure it's you don't just look a lot more leaner and jacked?
I mean, I look like I need to go to the gym and eat some more food. That's what I look like right now.
Hit the weights and eat some Arby's.
Yeah. I've also been just playing more basketball than weightlifting, so that's a little bit of it too. But
hey, speaking of, most episodes wouldn't be complete if we didn't chat a little bit about basketball. But how's your Gonzaga team doing?
we're 14-1, 15-1.
Damn.
We had one loss to Michigan, and they absolutely rolled us.
Is that because they're that good, or you guys just played poorly?
It was a combination of Michigan is really good. They like as a matchup. Oh, we're 17-1. I didn't realize we played that many games. They're really good. They matched up with us really well. A big part
when you
of
say
GU's like approach this. I mean, we have two of the best like low post players in the country. Like there's a kid on GU's team. I have never seen anybody with that kind of touch around the hoop. Like it's insane. But Michigan
NBA
had
player,
some guys who were maybe. Michigan has a couple guys who are just like really tall, really strong, kind of pushed us out of our and then we didn't really play very well. We shot the ball terribly. It was the first game of the year where we had like, oh, somebody's better than us. We're gonna have to like really come out swinging, and so I think it was just like deer in the headlights a little bit. Just didn't play well.
Good
and it was also the end of like a 3-day, like they played 3 games back to back to back.
A little tired.
Yeah, and so I think it was just a combination of all those things.
I don't know.
Yeah, we're 17-1.
Was this the Spartans or the Wolverines? I don't know my colleges well enough over there.
To everybody who lives in Michigan, I apologize for not going.
But who did they play?
It was the University of Michigan.
So, the Wolverines?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Tom Izzo would be rolling in his grave.
Probably. I don't know, probably.
One of my favorite basketball coaches of all time is Tom Izzo.
If you were a betting man, who's taking the NCAA tournament?
It's going to be Michigan or Arizona, I think. Probably Michigan.
Well, yeah. I'll be rooting for your dogs. I'll be rooting for them, and then I'll be texting you in the Final Four, and I'll be laughing at how pissed off you sound in your text messages because you're just like, what the hell was that? What is that? There's such a BS call. Like I would love to see how you are in person watching a game, because if your texts or anything or any indication, I think your behavior would be pretty funny.
I am a very relaxed person in life, but basketball is a different animal.
Fires you up.
Once I'm in the lines of those court, I'm a different person. I black out. I don't know what's happening. I get so mad.
Is that the same when you watch them on TV?
Sometimes, yeah. Not like general basketball, but if it's GU, just because I know the guys so well. So
cool. All right. Well, I got nothing else, man. In fact, at this point, we probably lost all of our viewers because we started talking about basketball, and everyone's like,
all two that we had.
That's we get in our defense, we get a lot more people listening afterward than we do live, so it's not all that bad.
Yes, which if you would have been at work on Monday, you would know that we're changing a little bit of the strategy with the YouTube videos. So I think Jem's emailed you already about it, but
I will make sure that I'm fully in the know about this.
The more you know. Oh, also, our YouTube stats are going up. We do need way more subscribers, though. We need more people to subscribe.
That's Brad's call to action for anyone listening to this afterward or on the podcast. Go to our YouTube channel and hit subscribe.
Actually, you know what? If you don't like listening to us, don't subscribe. But if you like listening to us, you should subscribe.
And on that note, I got nothing else, so we can play our outro music and get out of here. What do you think?
Yes.
Should we do that? I appreciate everyone listening, as always. And we will have some exciting episodes for you in the following weeks. We have a couple more guests coming on, and then we'll see where it goes from there. But I think you guys will enjoy the show in the coming weeks. So
bet.
That said, we're gonna duck out of here. Appreciate it, everybody. Have a good rest of your day.